Okay, so we are in Venice, Italy, and we're welcoming John from Origin Protocol, who's gonna present here in this video. And I will just sometimes interrupt him to ask questions to make it a bit more interesting and make sure that everything is clear. This is very technical, and so we'll try to make it clear for everybody, right? So, John, welcome to Venice. Well, just let's get started.
All right.
What is Origin? What are you doing?
Yeah, well, it's great to be here in Venice. Really excited to talk about what we're up to at Origin Protocol, where we are building a blockchain platform for businesses and developers to create decentralized marketplaces. And I'll talk a little bit more about what that means and why it's important. So starting with services like eBay and Craigslist over 20 years ago, the way people transacted and bought goods and services completely changed and was transformed by these online products and services. So rather than buying goods and services directly from businesses, these services allowed people to actually purchase these goods and services from other people. And they were soon coined peer-to-peer marketplaces. Since then, many others have come into existence, and today they are taking over the world. Services like Airbnb and Uber have completely transformed the way people transact with each other online. The truth is, though, that these services are called peer-to-peer, but they are not truly peer-to-peer. There is a big company sitting in the middle, collecting all the user data, siloing that data, and using that data to justify their transaction fees that can become very high, sometimes 20, 30, or 40% of each transaction. So at Origin, we envision a future where these so-called peer-to-peer marketplaces will become truly peer-to-peer and not peer to giant corporate monopoly to peer.
Let me interrupt you here.
Sure.
So why is the Airbnb, because this is our industry, where is the problem with Airbnb?
Yeah, well, first of all, I'd like to say that Airbnb is a great company that has, like I said, transformed the way people transact, transformed the way people stay in different cities, and they've solved many problems. And I think everybody that uses Airbnb is happy and grateful for the way that they have changed the way people travel. So it's important to give them credit where credit is due. But there are many issues with this setup, especially as Airbnb has become more popular and becomes more of a monopoly. They start to take advantage of this position. And one of the first things they do is they raise their fees. So we are excited about what blockchain can do to help lower these fees, which can get, like I said, to 20, 30, 40%, and in some extreme cases, even higher than that. But if you're able to remove this middleman and make these marketplaces truly peer-to-peer, you can remove these fees along with it. So that is one of the most important benefits of these blockchain-powered marketplaces. But there are many other benefits that come along as well. So one of these is to redistribute value more fairly. A lot of times we ask ourselves at Origin, what are the first hosts of Airbnb doing today? The people that were there at the very beginning of this network and helped Airbnb grow and thrive and become what it is today. The truth is that these first hosts are likely still hosting on Airbnb, but unfortunately probably making less than they were on day one. And that is because Airbnb has gotten big, they've gotten more leverage, and they've started to extract more fees out of the system.
I'm sorry to interrupt.
Yeah.
I calculated this thing you're saying. I calculated that if Airbnb had tokenized the business from the beginning, and I was a host in New York, one of the first 100 hosts, and I got $1,000 worth of Airbnb tokens, that would be worth today $3 million.
Yeah.
That's what you're saying, right? The guy, the first host in Airbnb in New York, got nothing out of it, and the investors got the $3 million.
That's exactly
maybe
correct.
oversimplified.
The founders, the investors, they've become billionaires. And along the way, the hosts that the entire network was built on top of, again, are making less than they were at the beginning. And in fact, Airbnb has already started to look into ways that they can share more equitably now that they're so big, and now that they're getting some backlash from the community. They're trying to figure out ways to incentivize their hosts and provide them with equity. But now that they're so big, it's very difficult to do this. And it's very difficult for them to disrupt their own model, which is very successful in creating a lot of income.
Why didn't they do it from the beginning?
Well, in the beginning, there wasn't open access to things like blockchain and cryptocurrencies. So these cryptocurrencies create a new economic model that allow this network to spread out the value of the network using these tokens, not just to the investors, not just equity to the founders and the employees, but tokens to all of the participants in the network. Not only the hosts, but also the guests potentially as well.
And that's a question I get a lot, and it's a key question in the whole, idea here. It's like, what would stop Airbnb for doing just a token or becoming decentralized, etc.? You replied already, but will they do it? How will they do it? Can they do it? What's the thing of it?
It's very difficult. It's just like trying to change the direction of a very large ship that is moving very quickly. It takes a lot of time and a lot of energy. And when you're Airbnb and you're making millions, tens of millions of dollars, it's tough to change your entire business model away from that, because you're going to have to give up all this revenue, and their investors expect this revenue to continue. So it's very unlikely that they will ever become a decentralized service.
And do you expect them to do something cosmetic, like make it look like they're doing it?
Yeah, I think it's very common these days for large companies to get into the blockchain in some way. A lot of times this is just to keep their investors happy. It's just to sound like they're being progressive. But fundamentally, the chances of them actually changing their business model are very small. So some of the other reasons that we're really excited about building these new versions of Airbnbs on the blockchain is to promote free and open commerce and give access to these services where users cannot get it today. So Airbnb is banned in many cities. Airbnb is not available in many cities because maybe it's not profitable enough. Maybe the city's too small to be on Airbnb's radar. They can't extract enough profit out of a small community, so they want to focus on other larger cities. But with these blockchain-powered marketplaces, you're able to allow these communities to create their own versions of Airbnb. So rather than having one company like Airbnb taking over the entire world, we are very excited about some of these more localized communities that better understand their user, better understand the local culture, and can provide a better experience, in addition to charging less, which puts more money into the pocket of the hosts and the guests.
So you don't envision one big Airbnb on the blockchain alternative, but many different local Airbnbs or niche Airbnbs and horizontal Airbnbs, so niches for pet lovers and stuff like this.
Absolutely.
And so we don't know what's going to come out of it, right?
Yeah, we don't know, but we're excited. And companies like Trips that are building on top of Origin. There are many other home sharing companies building on Origin and focusing on their local communities. And probably the last reason, it's somewhat related, which is very, very exciting to us, is to serve the unbanked. There are billions of people in the world who cannot use something like Airbnb because they do not have access to a credit card or a bank account, which is a requirement to use these services. But what they do have is access to very cheap Android phones, many of which will have cryptocurrency wallets installed. So we actually think that many of these unbanked will completely skip these traditional financial systems, and their first experiences on a home sharing or a sharing economy marketplace will actually be powered by the blockchain and cryptocurrencies.
All right.
So we're not just doing home sharing at Origin. It's something we're very excited about and we're definitely focusing on, but we are building a platform, a technology that will allow all types of different sharing economies and marketplaces to be built. So just within tourism, for example, you obviously have home sharing, but something that's becoming much more popular today is experiences, something Airbnb has been pushing a lot. So we are excited about all the different types of marketplaces that can be built in this new paradigm, using this new technology. Home sharing is certainly very important to us, but there's probably all sorts of different marketplaces that will be created that we may not even be thinking about today. So we've been talking a lot about the idea here, but it's important to understand this is real. This is live today. So you can actually go check out the first version of our peer-to-peer marketplace powered by the blockchain by visiting dap.originprotocol.com. This is live on the Ethereum mainnet, which is what we are building this platform on top of. And what you'll see there is a very basic buy and sell marketplace with an identity, reputation, and escrow system. But it's certainly going to evolve in the future.
Who's this picture project to Paul?
Yeah, picture project to Paul Varadatikit. He is one of our earliest investors from a fund called Pantera Capital, one of the most successful cryptocurrency funds. And in addition to some of the origin items we've placed on the marketplace to get some initial traction, we've actually been excited about some organic listings that we've seen on there as well. And this was one that Paul listed to basically pitch him your project. If you want to get involved in the space, you have a crypto project, or you want to get involved in his fund, you're able to spend an hour with him on the phone. And it was actually purchased within just a few days of him putting the listing up.
So somebody paid about $1,000 to pitch the project, right?
That is correct, yeah. And if you go here, you're going to see all sorts of different types of listings. You're going to see goods, you're going to see services, and you're going to see listings for the sharing economy, like some of these homes and rooms available
so
for rent.
Just to keep looking at that. So the genuine leather origin trade, like eBay. Feature project, well, that's something new actually. The origin backpack is eBay. The hacker house is like Airbnb.
Right.
And the
Website.
Kania is like Fiverr.
Yeah, exactly. Like a freelancer marketplace.
Okay.
And we're really excited about
So it's all mixed up right now, but there's going to be specific marketplaces for
exactly
verticals.
Exactly. Each company, like Trips, will have their own portal. They'll have their own website where they can determine, which listings they show there. But we have put all these listings together for our application that we built on our platform to show people what is possible. And so the way we're going about this is at the very base level, we are building a set of protocols, a set of smart contracts built on Ethereum. So how do you represent a listing on the blockchain? How do you represent identity? Things like this. We want to create a set of standards that everybody can use and follow. And on top of this, we're building developer tools. We're building a JavaScript library. Not many developers today know how to use the blockchain, but most of them know JavaScript. So we want to give access to these developers and abstract away all of the complexities of working with the blockchain and make it very simple and very easy for them to create a decentralized marketplace. In addition to these JavaScript libraries geared towards developers, we're also building white labeled products so that anybody, even if they don't have any, or maybe they just have a little experience with programming, can very quickly create a marketplace with their branding and their listings. And this allows these businesses and developers to focus on what is important and what is core to their business. Why should they have to each individually create a reputation system, an identity system, escrow, etc.? All of these things that are common to all marketplaces. We're going to build them. That way they can focus on onboarding their users and making sure that their users are happy.
So in other words, correct me if I'm wrong. Before Origin, I wanted to build a decentralized Airbnb. I had to hire blockchain developers, like Solidity developers, and they are impossible to find. They're very expensive, and I never made it.
Yeah.
Now, through you, I can hire JavaScript developers, or even better, I can just install my kind of WordPress instance and do my little Airbnb on WordPress. So the entry barrier is really, really low. So there's gonna be potentially thousands of websites like this.
That is correct.
It's gonna be a big mess, but somebody will come up. Right?
That is correct. Yeah, it's a good way to think about it, like the WordPress of marketplaces. How do you quickly create a marketplace with a couple of clicks that has your branding, your listings?
And it's open source, so it's not like Wix, which I can do anything. I have to accept what I do. It's with WordPress. I can build my own plugins. I can actually get the whole code and do my version. So I have no limits in terms of what I can do. I'm not stuck with you.
That is correct. Everything
even
we do
if you're making in a way that you are making so easy, that I will stay with you, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, everything we do at Origin is open source. We really want to get this technology in the hands of as many people as possible.
Okay, let me interrupt again because I'm sure that so many questions will pop up in people's minds. So you raised money, about $38 million, and you're building free software. What the hell are you doing?
Yeah, it's a very common question. Number one, it's really important to us to get this software in the hands of as many people as possible. So we don't want to create too many limitations. The other piece of it is cryptocurrencies have created this new business model where you don't need to charge people to use your software. And instead, you can leverage these cryptocurrencies and crypto economic models to incentivize people to build on top of your platform and incentivize the users to actually use it as well. JavaScript libraries on top of this platform as we built the application that we just showed you in the previous slide. We wanted to make sure to use our own technology and show people what's possible, but we're excited about all the other applications that will be built on top of it.
I'm sorry to keep asking about it on this slide, but will the code be better than Uber, Airbnb, or the others, or is it going to be worse because it's open source and it's messy? It's like, I'm teasing you.
Sure. Well, I think the idea is, number one, when you have an open source platform, you're able to attract many developers, and that allows you to move very quickly. The other thing is that nobody will use these services just because they're on the blockchain, just because they're decentralized. They're going to use them because they're a good service and because they add value. So we are very aware at Origin that we need to provide a very similar experience to what people are used to and what people expect today out of something like an Airbnb. So until we get there, there's going to be a lot of work to get there, people aren't going to use these services. So we understand that they not only have to be at least as good, but potentially even better than what's on the market today. So one of the core pieces of this entire puzzle is identity. One of the interesting parts about the blockchain is it allows two parties to trust each other. You don't need this third party in the middle to help establish trust between the two counterparties, the user and the host. Let's say the guest and the host in the context of an Airbnb. If you can solve identity, it makes it very easy to solve reputation, dispute resolution, etc. So what we've decided to do in order to help this identity issue is to adopt another open standard, something called ERC 725. And essentially, this is a way to represent somebody's identity on the blockchain. And without going into too much detail, you're able to prove cryptographically that the user that controls a certain wallet, an Ethereum wallet, also controls other services like a phone number, an email address, a Twitter or Facebook profile, etc. And this makes it much easier for the buyer of a good or service to trust who they're getting this good or service from.
So another way which we may put this, right? Today I'm going, let's stay on the Airbnb so we keep it simple. I go on Airbnb, I see a host profile, I see a picture, and I know this guy is the real guy because Airbnb took the effort to make sure this person is the right person by verifying the phone number, verifying the documents, and verifying whatever else, right?
We're also working on a mobile wallet that will make it much easier to use these services. One of the big challenges with these blockchain-powered applications today is there is a lot of friction for the user. In order to interact with one of these blockchain-powered applications, most commonly people need to use what's called MetaMask. It is a browser extension that you put in your Firefox or your Chrome browser, and this allows the browser to interact directly with the blockchain. But it creates a lot of friction, and it's very difficult for people who are not comfortable or familiar with this type of setup to actually use the application. So we are working on a mobile app. People use mobile apps every day. They're very comfortable with them. And this will allow someone to actually book a house, let's say on an Origin-powered marketplace like Trips, without needing MetaMask. They can just simply pull out their phone, scan a QR code, tap a couple of buttons, and it's going to be a very familiar experience to what they might see today on Airbnb.
In other words, today it is really complicated to make a booking. You need to be fairly technically advanced. You're just making it easier. It's still not easy. It's still not as easy as it will be in 5 years.
That is correct. It's not as easy,
that's the way.
But it needs to be. It needs to be just as easy or easier. People want to very quickly book these properties. And there's a lot of very smart people working on these problems, not just us at Origin. Many teams throughout the world are trying to make it much more easy for people to do this. And lastly, one of the other friction points with these blockchain-powered applications is that there is a cost. Each transaction has what's called a gas cost. So it's not free to write to the blockchain. It's not free to perform all of these actions. So we're building a way that will allow the application to actually pay for these costs on the behalf of the user. We need to make it very easy for these users, not only to use these services long-term, but to onboard onto these services and have their first experience on one of these blockchain-powered applications. So we're working on all sorts of different ways to this end to make it very easy for these users.
So in other words, when I go in Airbnb, I don't pay anything. I just start paying when I get bookings. On the apps like this, I don't pay a commission, but I have to pay I pay 10 cents for loading an apartment, and it costs me about $4 for the profile. So every time you do something, you are paying the fee, and the fee goes not to Origin, it goes to the miners.
Exactly.
And what you're doing here is giving the chance to the DApp to say, okay, we pay for that, and maybe we charge, I don't know, in our case, 5% commission, which will cover also these costs.
That's correct.
So that the end user, doesn't have to deal with this, 5 cents here, 10 cents there, and everything.
That's correct. And if you think about a service like Amazon, you go to Amazon, you see something you want, you click a button, and it gets shipped to your house. There's a lot going on behind the scenes. Amazon's connecting to many different services like Amazon Web Services, Twilio, etc. And many of these services have costs associated with them as well, but Amazon takes care of these costs. We're really excited about a future where the user may not even know that they're interacting with a blockchain-powered marketplace. They just think it's a regular marketplace. They see something they want, they click a button, and they get it. And behind the scenes, all of this magic is happening on the blockchain, and all of these costs are being covered by the application. All right, so who is behind Origin? This is one of the most important things to think about, in my opinion. One of the early engineers that we hired at Origin, his name is Yupan. And Yupan was one of 6 co-founders of PayPal.
Guy with the glasses close to Metal.
Yeah, the guy with the glasses right next to the guy with the white shirt.
Right.
And Yupan,
I actually do have glasses, but the one with the beard.
That's true.
Yeah,
the one with the beard,
shows.
exactly.
Right.
So not only was he one of 6 co-founders of PayPal, he was also the first employee of YouTube.
He's not wearing shoes.
He doesn't like to wear shoes very often. And this is literally one of the people that built the Web 2.0, the web that got mass consumer adoption of things like payments, video, etc. So these people like Yupan and some of the other engineers that also joined after Yupan that also worked with him at PayPal and YouTube, these are the people that have built the services that millions and millions and millions of people use today. And we're excited about why are these people coming to work on the blockchain? They've already done so much, been very successful in their past, but they're coming here because they see the future. They're excited about this technology. And more importantly, they're excited about what this technology means for the world, what they can build to change the way people transact and exchange goods and services online.
It was very funny because we were in this exhibition together a couple of days ago in Sardinia, and we used UPenn as a way to communicate, but this is really serious stuff going on, right? And so we're saying it was there in PayPal before Elon Musk. It was working with Elon Musk, first engineer in YouTube, etc., etc. And then I realized this is a bit like what happened with you played soccer, right? So we had this Serie A, the major league in Italy. It was very big in the 80s and the 90s, and then it went down, and Spain became big or whatever. And then Juventus bought Ronaldo, and then Serie A is back. It's back on
Back on the map.
Yeah. So in a bit, it's like Ronaldo. People understand if he's there. I mean, then it means there's something really important going on.
Yeah,
so
he's there for a reason.
It made it easier for us to explain this is not just like a nerd little project. This is, I mean, the real people, the strong guys, and you find it's just the most prominent, but the other guys behind are is a seller team, right?
Absolutely.
So that's a good way for us to communicate how big this thing is and how big it can become.
Yeah,
right?
Gives it a lot of credibility, definitely. I think there's a lot of negative thoughts today about some of these cryptocurrencies, some of these blockchain projects, and I think it's totally fair. There's a lot of scams out there. There's a lot of dishonest people out there that, frankly, will not be able to ship these products that will actually serve millions of people. But our team has done this before many, many times. We've also been very fortunate to raise money from some of the best investors throughout the entire world. We've raised $38 million to date from some of the best angel investors, people that were angel investors in companies like LinkedIn, Google, Lyft. The founding advisor at Uber, Steve Jang, is an investor, and the founder of Reddit, the third largest site on the internet, Alexis Ohanian, is also an investor. We've also raised money from very traditional funds like Foundation Capital and some of the most successful crypto funds like Pantera Capital and FBG. And one of the most important things to us was to get this token into the hands of as many as possible, rather than just raising a lot from a few investors. We wanted to raise a little from a lot of investors.
It's something very important you said here, and these people bought tokens. In a way.
They bought what's called a SAP. It's a promise for a future token, because when we raised the money, we had not yet created the token. But yes, it is not a traditional fundraising where they're getting equity.
So because we're going around Italy and saying, okay, we're going to sell the tokens to investors, and investors are like, we don't want tokens, we want equity, right?
Yeah.
That's the way we do things here. And then you're telling me that the best investors in the world are actually buying tokens.
Absolutely. They see the future.
So
they see
Italian investors. Listen to that. And you're telling me that Y Combinator, Gary Tan, the guys who invested first in Airbnb are investing in you too.
Yeah, Gary Tan was a former partner at Y Combinator.
A former
partner.
So Y Combinator didn't actually invest in Origin.
Correct. That is correct. Yeah, he invested individually, but he has helped tons and tons of the Y Combinator companies grow. He's an incredible investor that knows a lot about startups. And we're really excited to bring in this interest from people all over the world, in Asia, in Europe, in the Americas, and as well different project founders. So a lot of the companies that are working to help scale these blockchains like Ethereum, they're also participating in this as well. And we've been working very hard to get as many partners lined up as possible. So Trips is one of our early partners, especially in the home sharing space. We have partners in many, many different verticals, from education marketplaces like Odom to freelancer marketplaces to ride sharing, bike sharing, etc. And we think there are going to be many, many more marketplaces, probably in verticals we're not even thinking about today, that are going to build on Origin and leverage this crypto economic framework. Many businesses are very difficult to build because in order to raise money from venture capitalists, the venture capitalist needs to see a very large exit. They need to see billions of dollars in their future. But some of these local communities, they may not be able to create a marketplace for their people that will get that big. It doesn't mean it's not going to add a lot of value to their community, to their lives of the users, but they're not going to be a $1 billion or $10 billion company. So we're very excited to see what types of smaller localized marketplaces are going to leverage this technology to change the way that they transact in their community.
That's really interesting, because this way we can build some service which doesn't make sense financially for investors, but there's a specific set of people who actually need it. I keep thinking about the disabled people who want to travel in Airbnb. Nobody's building a disabled marketplace because there's no money in it.
Exactly.
And they're stuck going into Airbnb and trying to figure out if the place is actually compatible and so on. And they're stuck. It's just very hard. And even if Airbnb has actually realized that and they're trying to help, but it's not focused 100% on that. And true origin, somebody will build something like that. Or somebody will build something for minorities.
Yeah,
right.
Access is very important. I think Airbnb, Uber, they've done a great job of increasing access for a lot of people, but they still have a lot of work to do in order to allow people with disabilities, people of color, to take advantage of these services, any kinds of minorities. It's very important to increase access to them. And like you said, if it's not profitable, it's going to be harder for Airbnb to dedicate the resources to solve these types of problems.
Look, in the Airbnb space, the only real niche which was able to raise money was Mr. Airbnb, which is dedicated to the gay community.
Mm-hmm.
Probably because there's money into this. There's enough money to realize, and the community is very probably connected, etc. All the other communities, small people who have special needs are just left
behind.
They have to go to the big single Politburo big shop. It gets closer to what we had during socialism in some countries. Right. One shop, and what's there is there, what's there is not there.
Exactly.
So this is really democratizing the whole.
Yeah, it's a single point of failure too. When you have just one monopoly in the space, then it's very dangerous for the consumer. In San Francisco, Airbnb actually removed 50% of all of their listings in one day because the government came to them, said, we're going to fine you every day that you have listings up that aren't registered with us. We're going to fine you. They didn't want to get fined, so they removed 50% of their listings. Now, whether or not you agree with the reason behind this and whether or not the government should have done this or Airbnb should have done this, it's pretty scary to know that this can happen in one day and the consumer doesn't have any other option really to leverage.
80% in Japan.
Yeah.
Wiped off. But this is, okay, people will say, well, the government is, that's their job to decide what's, illegal and what not.
Mm-hmm.
But there are countries where governments are not democratic, they are oppressive, and people may want to do, live their life, like open an Airbnb, and they can't.
Mm-hmm.
With Origin, they will be able to bypass these regulations. I think this use case, the fact that it's not controllable, it's going to be much more visible in developing countries than in developed countries where governments are oppressive.
Definitely. And, just to be clear, we're not encouraging people to go break the law. We just don't think that the technology itself should be limited. We think the technology should be open and free for everybody to use. And then people can make the decision on an individual level on how they want to use this technology and conform with their local laws. As we mentioned, this is completely open source. We've had over 50 people contribute to this code base in just a very short amount of time. We're built on the Ethereum blockchain. We also leverage something called IPFS, the Interplanetary File System, which makes it a little bit easier to scale things out, because one of the challenges with blockchain today is scalability. So you don't want to store every piece of data, the pictures, the listing descriptions, etc., directly on the blockchain. So this allows us to be a little bit more efficient from a technology standpoint and eventually serve more customers and more users.
IPFS replaces servers. I upload my picture, it gets broken in 1,000 pieces and it's distributed on thousands of computers around the world. Nobody has the picture, only you have the way to put it back. So it's a distributed server.
Yeah,
is that correct?
Essentially, yep. All right, so there's lots of ways to get involved. Of course, we're really excited about getting as many developers as possible to participate in what we're building. You can check out all of our code today on GitHub, github.com/originprotocol. Got all sorts of people contribute in many different ways, and a lot of other projects are just using the code that we've created for their own purposes, and we're okay with that. We want to share this with as many people as possible so that we can realize this decentralized future. Any marketplace businesses as well. So if you have a home sharing business today, and you want to think about making it decentralized so that you can charge less to your guests and the host can make more money, we're interested in talking to you and showing you how you can build this on our technology in a very quick and easy way. And lastly, community members, anybody interested at all in what we're doing. Maybe you don't know how to code, maybe you don't have a marketplace business, but you still want to get involved. We definitely are interested in talking to you. We've had our application, our white paper, etc., translated into many, many different languages. I think it's over 17 at least right now. And so anybody who wants to get involved, there is a place for you. There is a way that you can help. So please reach out. Join us on our Telegram or our Discord. There will be some links at the end here. And introduce yourself, and we'll certainly love to hear how you're thinking about things and how you can get involved. All right, so very quickly, we can show you a real example of this. So I'm here in Venice, and I needed a place to stay. So I went on Origin, and the Trips community has been very proactive and put actual listings on Origin for some of their properties. So I found this property here, and it's in Venice, and I said, okay, I'm Luca, I'm gonna go ahead and book this for a night. So this is what I see. As you can see, it's very similar to what you would expect out of an Airbnb. Still some features and functionality that we're going to be building in the future, but I can see the pictures, I can purchase this and hold the money in escrow, etc. This is what we were talking about earlier. This is MetaMask. You can see this little pop-up on the left here. It's asking me to confirm this transaction so that it can basically bridge the gap between the web application and the blockchain. So these are the types of problems we're trying to solve to make it much more easy for a user to actually go through this experience.
So it costs you 23 cents to confirm.
Exactly. This is the gas costs that we were talking about. 23 cents, US cents, correct. Once I've booked this transaction, you can see Luca can use this decentralized chat system to actually message me, give me some details about the property, the check-in process, etc. And there's also state transition. So we can see today that an offer has been made and accepted. And the next step after I've stayed at the property and decided to review my experience there, the funds that I've sent to the smart contract, they're currently in escrow right now. I don't have them, the host doesn't have them, and as soon as I leave my review, then these funds will be released to the host.
Where is this money?
So the money, it lives in the smart contract, and what that means is that nobody can go take that money out. I can't go in and say, oh, I want my money back. Luca can't go and grab that money.
Can Origin take it?
Origin can't take it either.
Okay, that's very important.
That
Nobody
is very
can
important.
take the money.
It is based on the smart contract, it's based on code. And if we enter into a dispute, it's going to stay in the smart contract until this dispute is solved. If I'm happy, I leave a good review, the funds are sent to the host, and that's it. Origin doesn't take a cut.
What happens if you just forget about it and the money stays in the smart contract? Where does it go? Goes back to the bank?
Doesn't go anywhere. It
stays in the blockchain. The blockchain is going to be rich.
Yeah, it stays there until
once the blockchain acquires artificial
it.
intelligence capability, is going to be very rich.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So this is it. You can do this today. We still have a lot to build, a lot to do still, but we're excited about this first step. It's really important to us to get this out there, to allow people to experience it, give us feedback, and help us make the decisions on what to build next and what direction to take this platform.
Can the government take the money?
Nobody can take the money, but
a hacker?
The code. Well, in theory, the hacker, if they can find, if they can exploit some sort of loophole, this has happened in the past in the Ethereum community many, many years ago. In theory, it's possible, but we've done a good job of auditing our contracts. We get third parties that specialize in making sure these smart contracts are secure.
So you sent me half a Ether, which was $100 at the time, and then Ether crashed a bit more.
Yeah.
And now it's worth 80. Are you gonna give me $20 in cash?
I'm not, but this is definitely an issue that we have discussed quite a bit internally. Today, the currency that you would use to transact on Origin is Ether, which is the cryptocurrency of Ethereum, but we plan to support many others. So one of the things we're very excited about is what's called a stablecoin. And this is essentially a cryptocurrency that is pegged to a fiat currency or to something else. And the idea here is that it always has the same value. So it could be pegged to the US dollar. And that way you know that regardless of what happens to the price of Ether, if you sold your apartment, night in your apartment for $100, you're going to get $100 worth of cryptocurrency at the other end. And this is very important in the context of the marketplace. If I book an apartment today, but I don't stay there for 2 months, somebody's going to lose. Either I'm going to lose or the host is going to lose based on the volatility of the cryptocurrency. So we're really excited about these stable coins. And we also plan to support many other ERC20 tokens, such as TRIPS or other partner tokens as well. All right, so thank you. Here's some ways you can get in touch with us. Like I mentioned, we are very active on Telegram. On Discord, we do all of our communication and collaboration out in the open for everybody to see and give feedback and ask questions. We also do a public weekly engineering call if you want to see what our engineers are up to, what we're building, what we're focused on. If you want to see UPAN in action, you can certainly join. We also are very active on Medium as well. We put out a lot of content about what we're building, what's happening in the space, why this is important. So we encourage you all to check it out, join the conversation, and you can even email me directly if you'd like at johnjon@originprotocol.com.
I strongly suggest to check out the weekly developer meeting, because from somebody coming from the outside, knowing that you have access, I have access not because I'm trips in their apartment, just because I get the link and I can visually the talk and show my face, but you see these guys talking about the code, what they're developing, and you see this, rock stars in the space.
Absolutely.
And it means, and then all the code they write is open. This is mind blowing. This is something different. I will never be able to see what's happening behind closed doors in any other marketplace.
Right. So beauty of open source.
That gives you the real feeling of what's happening. So Wednesday night, it's about 8 p.m. Europe time, and just click a link in Google Hangout, and you are gonna be in the Olympus with big stars.
Yeah.
Just for an hour. Then you go back to your little life. But it's really amazing. I really suggest that. Okay, so thank you, BBC Solutions here in Vega in Venice, for the chance to be here and have this interview, which won't be paid in euro. It will be paid in tokens, trips, and origin. So we are in the new economy. Thank you, Francisco, and thank you, everybody.
Thank you.